Jonathan Martinez versus Davey Grant. And you got the dude and Davey Grant, man, who is he came off of a big knockout, round 3 knockout to Martin Day. Follows it up with a round 2 knockout over Jonathan Martinez. And I'll tell you what, man, this fight taught me, or this matchup taught me a really valuable lesson. And that lesson is that being unorthodox can cause people a lot of problems, man. And I think that's what we saw in this orthodox versus southpaw matchup, but it wasn't really that. In reality, what it was Davey Grant, dude, he's a switch fighter. He's switching all day long. Left, right. You don't know where I'm going to go. I'm going to hit you here, loopy shot here. He got dropped in that first round, man, but he came back with a vengeance, and I think he went to show that experience counts. Jonathan Martinez, he got all this street fighting experience, but Davey Grant's a true OG of the game. So give me some thoughts, some impressions from that fight.
I was very impressed with Davey Grant. Like not in the fact that I thought he was like a dominant force controlling the fight, like he's gonna steamroll everybody, but he was throwing such weird angle shots that when you're in there with somebody who doesn't normally just throw down the pipe ones, twos, and even hooks like normal, and he was like doing weird, like just his body pressure, like posture was so strange. I was thinking, man, this guy is a tough puzzle to solve, almost more tough than like an Israel Adesanya who's so smooth and flashy. That's almost easier than the guy who's kind of like kitschy and doesn't really exactly move how you'd expect him to. It was very impressive, and I was big on Jonathan Martinez, man. I was really shocked from the knockout, and this was one of the fights where actually I think you could have let him go a little longer. He was coming back. His head definitely hit the canvas going up, and the call was there, totally understandable for this shot. But I think he could have. They were wrestling. He was grabbing the leg. I think he could have let it go a little longer to see what he had. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can't deny a TKO knockout. Davey Grant didn't leave it to the judges. That's what you want to see at the end of the day, man, and it's impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And that's one of those interesting things where I felt like Jonathan Martinez, you could see it in his face right after he gets dropped. Dude just looks at Davey Grant, just smiles, shakes his hand like, dude, you got me. Good one. You know what I mean? I'll be back, but that was a good one. And that's what I love to see. But ultimately, this showed me that Davey Grant also, another big thing that stood out to me was that he literally said, if I stay on, so he took like what Bilal Muhammad should have did to Leon Edwards, but he did it very well, right? He just said, if I stay in front of you, if I'm throwing strikes at you nonstop, and watch the fight back again, because I watched it again today, and he's just throwing nonstop. Like Jonathan Martinez cannot get a chance to just sit down and like set up his strikes, and I think that messed up Jonathan Martinez's timing. And honestly, though, if the fight would have went all 3 rounds, man, I think it was starting to look bad for Grant with those calves, man. His calves were getting beat up, and Jonathan Martinez this is the big learning lesson. Yeah, he dropped him with the big hook or whatever. I think it was like a left hook or whatever. But you got to let the hands go more, man. He loves throwing the kicks, but you can't just throw the kicks. You got to set up the kicks with the strikes. And unfortunately, Davey Grant is a tough puzzle to solve, man. And like I said, these are 2 huge knockouts, which once again, this is another guy where I'm just like, okay, dude, well, bantamweight, where do we go? Where do we put you, Davey Grant? Who are you fighting next? And it'll be an interesting one to talk about in a second. But this was a huge win, man. I can't even state how big of a win this is, but I say that I think that this is a great learning lesson for Jonathan Martinez, because though he has a lot of hype behind him and whatnot, I truly do believe that this is going to be one of the lessons that he's going to learn that's going to propel him so much further to actually get up into the upper echelon of the bantamweight division, because nothing stings worse than, being really highly touted, having everybody pick for you, being a betting favorite, and then getting starched like that. And I'm not gonna say he got starched necessarily, but in that second round, man, it was all Davey Grant. Like there was no Jonathan Martinez in that one. He left the dragon in the first round. So Davey Grant, he's dangerous. He just slayed a dragon, man. It was beautiful to see, and you know what I'm saying? This is just gonna chalk it back up to hitting the drawing board for good old Jonathan Martinez, man. And